Unfortunately, not everyone in the world of mixed martial arts is a saint. While many have used their abilities for justice and self-defense as the arts are traditionally practiced, there are always some bad apples in the bunch. MMA can truly attract all different walks of life. I'm Drake Riggs, and these are 5 notable MMA fighters with criminal records. Jason Mayhem Miller. Throughout his MMA career, the man known as Mayhem was a true fan favorite in every sense of the phrase. He had a wild and wacky personality, his fighting style was fun and unique, he had all the potential to go from a star to a superstar. Mayhem's 39-fight career spanned from 1998 to 2016 and saw him compete against some of the sport's best. His most notable runs came during his time in Hawaii as well as Japan and Strikeforce. Mixed in between his ventures were 2 separate UFC stints, one of which came earlier in his career with the other at the end. He went 0-3 during his overall time with the promotion. It wasn't until after his final UFC bout in 2012 that Mayhem started causing mayhem outside of MMA. From 2012 to 2019, Mayhem had run-ins with the law in each of the years during that span. His incidents included being arrested for breaking into and sleeping naked in a church, domestic battery, violating a restraining order, a 5-hour-long standoff with a SWAT team, a simple misdemeanor battery and resisting arrest, and vandalizing his girlfriend's house. Mayhem wound up serving jail time for his vandalism case and was released in September 2019. He's since stayed out of trouble and has done several interviews with MMA media since and has also been a reoccurring guest on Adam Hunter's MMA Roasted podcast. Charles Crazy Horse Bennett. Charles Bennett is most famously known as Crazy Horse, which is one of the most fitting nicknames there's ever been. But after so many run-ins with the law, he's proudly changed his nickname to Felony. Like Mayhem Miller, Bennett started his career in the late 90s, yet he continues to compete to this day and has amassed a record of 30 wins, 41 losses, and 2 draws. He's fought for promotions such as Pride FC, Ryzen, King of the Cage, Elite XC, and even recently got into a bare-knuckle boxing match with the BKFC. The now 40-year-old Bennett racked up 14 different arrests from 1999 to 2009. Some of the most notable of the charges were for burglary, the selling of cocaine, possession of MDMA, and aggravated battery of a pregnant woman. In 2011 and 2013, he was charged with battery. The first of those 2 instances coming after he was knocked down by a training partner at his gym, thus leading to Bennett leaving the gym only to return and attack his teammate with a piece of metal. As for his MMA career, Bennett's last one came in 2016 when he made his first and only appearance in the Ryzen ring where he scored the quickest win of his career with a 7-second knockout. Since then, he's lost 11 fights in a row, 13 if we include his bare-knuckle matches. Aleksandremelyanenko. Obviously, the name Emelianenko is one that is legendary in the world of MMA, but there are always negatives to a positive, and that's the case with Fedor's younger brother, Alexander. Emelianenko made his MMA debut in 2003 for Pride FC and has fought 36 times since. Ever since his first professional bouts, he has been covered in very specific tattoos, which signal his affiliation with the Russian crime world and are almost never gotten outside of prisons. Alexander repeatedly denied his affiliation with the criminals, stating that he got them to frighten his opponents. 90% of the tattoos, which foreigners could never understand the meaning of anyway. For the first half of his career, he'd only suffered losses to the stiffest of competition, including names like Mirko Krokop and former UFC champions Josh Barnett and Fabricio Verdum. However, he never reached the same heights as his brother, which really shouldn't come as a surprise keeping in mind his rampant lifestyle. After a number of reported and rumored hooligan acts and canceled fights in May 2014, Emelianenko finally got behind bars after he was accused of rape and assault of a former housekeeper as well as the stealing of her passport. A full year later, and he would be found guilty and sentenced to 4.5 years in prison accompanied by a fine. He would be released on parole in October 2016 and got back to fighting the following year. Since returning to MMA after his time behind bars, he gained 5 wins and scored 1 draw. Last year, Emelianenko was supposed to have a bout take place in May, but in March he crashed into 2 cars while driving his gold Mercedes under the influence. He would wind up being detained after fleeing from the police. As a result, his fight was cancelled and he lost his contract with Russia's RCC promotion. War Machine. Formerly known as John Koppenhaver, War Machine legally changed his name to his nickname in 2008. War Machine fought in MMA from 2004 to 2013 and found himself competing in both the UFC and Bellator for short periods of time. He entered the UFC in 2007 as a participant of The Ultimate Fighter Season 6. His final 3 fights came in the Bellator cage as he went 2-1. Currently 38 years old, War Machine's history of crime dates back to 2007 where he choked a man unconscious in a parking lot in Las Vegas. He would be sentenced to 3 years probation for the incident in February 2008. In August 2010, War Machine got into 2 bar fights and was charged with felony assault and sentenced to a year in jail. An additional year would eventually be tacked on. In August 2014, War Machine assaulted and attempted to rape his ex-girlfriend Christy Mack. The horrific attack resulted in Mack suffering 18 broken bones. War Machine would be convicted on 29 felony counts, therefore leading to him facing life in prison. Kidnapping and sexual assault with a weapon were included among the convictions. It was decided in June 2017 that War Machine would have the option of parole after 36 years served in prison. Believe it or not, War Machine got engaged in July 2018 to a woman who had been writing him as a pen pal. Abel Trujillo. Out of everyone on this list, Abel Trujillo was the one who managed to spend the most time inside the UFC octagon. The Greensboro, North Carolina native started off his career going 9-4 before getting the call to the UFC in 2012. From there, he would compete until 2017 and go 6-4 with one no contest in the process. In the end, Trujillo's career should best be remembered for seeing him help set the record for most takedowns landed in a single fight. This coming in his first UFC loss at UFC 160 when he was ragdolled on 21 separate occasions by the future lightweight champion Khabib Nurmagomedov. Trujillo's criminal history involves 2 cases of domestic abuse against the mother of his child, both of which he pleaded guilty to. In July 2019, Trujillo was charged with sexual exploitation of a child and pleaded guilty to promoting obscenity in March of this year. His sentencing was scheduled for April 6th, but was presumably moved due to the happenings with the COVID-19 outbreak, as no word on his sentence has been released since.